special city council meeting for May 15th, 2017 in council chambers. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Keller?
Here.
Mr. Rohr?
Here.
Mr. Hellinger?
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Here.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, here. Okay, sure.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Darren Shulman. I'm the city attorney. I wanted to give you a little introduction about what you can expect for this evening in terms of process. First thing we're going to do is Elaine and I are going to we have a card with everyone's name on it. We're going to throw it in this bag and we're going to draw the names at random for the order that interviews are going to go in. So it'll be completely blind. Elaine's looking at me, it's wrong. Okay, your head's like, no, don't say that. So we're going to draw the names at random. Then everyone's going to go back into that room over there, and there's some snacks back there. And then we're going to, in the order they come in and do the interviews. After the interviews, our completed council will likely take an initial vote. They're going to use one of these little ballots here and write it up, tally it up, and I'll work with Elaine to keep that tally. The thing to remember is under our charter, you have to get 4 votes to be selected. So it's quite possible that with 6 candidates and 6 members, we don't have 4 votes on the initial vote, in which case we'll probably look at the spread, as it were, and figure out who makes it to the second round of voting and things like that. So that's sort of the overall general structure. I'd be happy to answer any questions from you folks about kind of the process or council, but that's kind of how we're going to do it. The first ballot we've kind of determined will just be a quick on-paper ballot, and then council will decide as we get longer on if they just want to do roll call votes. Eventually, the final vote will be by roll call, so we know that Elaine and I haven't cooked up a scheme to make up all the numbers on our own. So that'll be as transparent as possible. Missing anything?
Nope.
Okay, so without further ado, Elaine, want to draw these names with me?
No pressure.
It's a Delaware dog park bag. All right. All right, Stephanie Gregory gets to go first. Tim Adams goes second. George McNabb third. Kelly fourth. Jim Browning fifth, and last, one more. Last but not least, George Metzeler will be sixth. So I'll just put them in order there. All right, cool. So council, is there anything else you want to go over before we send them back to their waiting room, so to speak?
No, just after your interview, they're going to go back over there, right?
Yeah, I would recommend that you stay there because 2 things could happen. One, you'll probably want to see what the votes are, and also it could be, and we've done this in the past, they'll move people to a second interview if they have follow-up questions that they want. So if you were one of the top 2 people to make it to a second round of interviews and you're not here, that would be bad for you. But so you'll definitely want to stick around. If you have to go away somewhere, you can give us a cell phone and we can call you, but I would try to stick in that room.
Just don't talk to each other about the answers in here because you might help the next person. So.
Yeah, that question was really tough. I've only had more time to think about it. Okay, so should we send them back?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you want to clear the room? You had some questions first. Did I hear from Chris? Did you want everyone? Just the candidates. Okay, so yeah, if the candidates could all step out, and then Stephanie, I think you're first, correct?
Yes.
We'll come out and get you when you're ready.
Okay.
When we're ready for you, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just curious why you're here. You what?
I live in the woods.
Oh.
Did you get the text I sent you? Okay, no. So, George Anderson, how are we doing the questioning from here then? So how we started from here?
Well, how are we serving what? I'm sorry?
The questioning from here, so.
Well, we have 2 questions. First, I want them to talk to us for 3 minutes about themselves.
Okay.
Then we have 2 questions that we have to ask them, each of them all. I mean, same questions to
I want to
everybody.
knock it.
And then if anybody has any questions, I see you got stuff highlighted, I got stuff underlined. within ours.
So these are the two questions. You can have them do an intro, and then these are the two questions you're asking everybody. And then are we going down the line for questions too, or is this, we're just sticking to these two questions?
No, we can ask other questions.
No, I guess what I'm asking is, we can, I know, but are we going down the line, or is it just if someone wants to ask a question, we're asking a question?
I think if just someone has a question.
Okay, all right.
And the questions are probably going to come from their answers. Those,
Yeah.
those questions all came, one from
Right,
everybody.
yeah, yeah. The ones that they wrote.
Wrote, and there was one extra one which ended up being, I think, Kyle's, which is on the front here, because it was only 5 questions or 6 of us.
And you're asking everybody these two questions, and then we can all ask any question from there. Okay. Okay. Just want some clarification.
No, it's fine. And unless you ask me to, Madam Mayor, I won't step involved with the interviews. You just free will it any way you want. But if you need something, I can help you.
Okay. I'm ready. Is everybody else ready? Lisa, you all right? You look confused.
Nope, I'm good. Okay.
What'd you say?
Say we're burning daylight.
Right. Does that mean for me to shut up?
Oh, I see.
I'm just thinking about the cheese line that she had.
Stop.
Well, you complained about it the whole time, and now you want it.
I'm teasing. I am hungry though.
Good breeze, yes, you do.
Some grapes and some cantaloupe and some,
I don't like cantaloupe.
the green rope,
I don't like the green loaf either.
pineapple,
I do like pineapple.
and it's got that healthy cream cheese.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is broccoli in there?
It should be right here. Go make up 6 tries.
Well, thank you very much for applying, for having the interest in applying for this seat.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We'll give you 3 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Can I take a drink of water
You
first?
certainly
I
may.
was eating the cheese.
Anytime you want.
You're already in the cheese? Come on.
Didn't get a good lunch.
Cheese.
Okay. I am here because I care deeply about our community. As I wrote, I am from Delaware, and I love Delaware, and I would love to represent Delaware. I'm an idealist. I see problems, and I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be that person that's there complaining about things and not doing anything about it. So I frankly never envisioned being on city council, but when I saw the opportunity, I thought this is my chance to try to make a difference. And my husband and I had been to a few meetings, and I was very impressed with your work. So I decided that I would throw my hat in the ring. I said, Steve, it's either you or I, and he's too shy. So we're a team, so we started working on it.
Okay. Can you describe to me the boundaries of the 3rd Ward?
Yes, we've been driving them. I was shocked. Okay, so I was shocked to see that it's on William over to Montrose to, what is that runs alongside Montrose, and then down to Liberty, and all along down to London, Liberty, and it goes over to 23. I'm trying to remember the name of that neighborhood just south of mine. It goes down 23, and I was shocked to find that it is clear out to Peach Blow Road, because I grew up on 3Bs and K, and I knew that as Delaware County. So my jaw dropped as we were exploring that, and then went over to Cheshire, which I was very familiar with. Hasn't made it as far as the Cheshire Market yet, but it's getting over there. And then I believe it runs along the river, like Henry Street, but then maybe further over, like where we were talking about that zoning product. We were trying to figure that out yesterday. And then, well, what's that called? well, it goes along Stratford and then up over Olentangy Avenue. And then you can take Henry. And then trying to think how far it goes. I think William, it cuts back over to 23. And that's about I don't know what shape that is.
An odd shape. How'd she do? You looking at the map over there?
It was a fun adventure.
And if you are selected, are you planning on running in November?
Yes.
Okay. How do you plan to campaign?
I actually have quite a few friends who have been very supportive, and so I want to get them on board. And I have a friend who works here in town who just offered to be my campaign manager. If I'm not selected, I may still run. So I like social media. I think I like to use social media. And I'm a bit quirky, so I could see using music and YouTube and on my application I was thinking of gregarious. So my husband and I have been joking #gregarious.
All righty. What other questions does council have for Stephanie?
I have one.
You have one, go ahead.
Regardless of how you feel, how you voted, how you feel about the levy that just failed, just out of curiosity, talking to people in the neighborhood and yourself, where do you think the city went wrong
Okay.
with that campaign that in your opinion, it didn't pass?
As I said, I think there wasn't enough education about the levy. And I think that would have helped it, because when I was filling out my application, I thought, well, my job is to represent people, so I want to hear what people are thinking. So what could Delaware do to improve? And they said the roads, the bike paths. And so I thought, well, didn't we just try to get improvements there? So I think there is a desire, definitely, for infrastructure to be improved and the bike paths. I think maybe the word just didn't get out. I think that your average citizen is out of touch with the city. And if they were more in the know, they might have been more prone to vote yes. So I thought, as I was going around getting signatures, it was really good to talk to people, and they were very interested in the workings of city council. So that was kind of fun to share with them what I knew. So I think just more PR, like I said in my answers here, your Facebook page is great, utilizing that, maybe utilizing YouTube. I don't know if the city staff could do it, or we could partner with some Ohio Wesleyan students who could help us with videos.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, do you have a question?
Come back to me.
Okay. George?
Yes. How would you, if you're on council, how would you approach kind of the NIMBY attitude, the not in my backyard attitude that permeates most projects, whether it's a landfill, whether it's road widening, whether it's a bike path, whatever? People are, oh, I really like it. Oh, I don't want it near me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my piece of flesh. How do you handle that?
Depends on what it is. But I guess you have to weigh their point of view. Do they have valid concerns? And what does the rest of the community feel about the issue? If you have to make a decision to put the bike path through the run when so many individuals in that area don't want it, then I guess communicating with them your decision respectfully, why you made that decision, and trying to incorporate them in the bike path or whatever it is, the dump whatever is in their backyard, getting their input. Okay, well, we've decided that the majority really wants this bike path through the run. And I'm sorry this isn't pleasing you, but since we're going to put it through, what ways can this be more palatable for you? Lights, cameras, whatever on the bike path.
Okay, do you have a question, Stephanie? Cal, do you have anything?
You said you're an idealist. What are your ideals?
I'm very empathetic. So when I see something not going the way I think it should for maybe other people, then I want things to improve. You know, things can't ever be 100% perfect, but I spoke about the drug problem, and fortunately, it hasn't hit Delaware as hard as other communities, but reading about it, I think it's hitting us hard as well. When I read a statistic that 85% of crime in Delaware is related to heroin, that upsets me. And it upsets me. I've been touched personally by that issue, working in a school district that was hit very heavily by it. So I don't want things like that to go on. So I would love to put my head together with people in the community and work on solving problems such as that.
In your questions, your answers rather, not your questions, you said that under what role does the city council play in the daily operations to the city? You wrote to oversee the city departments, the fire, the police, and the sanitation, and et cetera.
Okay.
Expand on that for me.
I have a lot to learn in that area as far as what is expected, particularly in this city government. So I can't really expand upon that because I still have a lot to learn about, yeah.
Okay. Just so you know, we are a charter city.
So-
We're the only one that we're in charges are this guy, and that young lady right there. That's it. Everybody else is his responsibility.
Okay, so
So we can't go to the police department and tell them what to do. We can't go to the fire department. We can't do any of that.
okay.
It's his job.
I spoke to, yeah, and that was my question, because I understand there are different forms of city government. As a council member who I spoke to, that was one of her responsibilities. So I put that in there, not
Okay.
realizing that it was not included in ours.
Okay, I'm coming back to you, Lisa.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
So very often, as a council member, you are open to criticism or other people's opinions that they may post on websites, blogs, all kinds of things. And sometimes some of the things that you may read may be, that's not what I said at all, or that's not what I meant. And I'm wondering how you as a person would deal with that type of scrutiny and how you would respond to it.
It's hard to know how you would respond until you're put in that position. I hope that I would be able to have a thick skin and to answer diplomatically to the situation, tell my side respectfully.
Okay, thank you.
We're way ahead of the game. Any more questions? Did you have a question the way you looked at me? Okay. No, I'm sorry. You have a question? Sure. I'll let you. We do.
Hello again.
Hello.
Oftentimes on council, they're faced with difficult decisions and things can be, I don't want to say acrimonious, but they can be emotionally charged one way or the other. How do you deal in general with stressful situations or conflict situations? And if it's easy enough to come up with an example of a time you've dealt with that kind of conflict, because you're going to be interacting with these folks for hours and a night every other week. So.
Okay, so stressful situations.
Stressful conflict situation, interpersonal conflict.
And with coworkers in particular.
Perfect.
Okay. I try to keep a calm head and evaluate the other person's point of view and not get fired up about it, because it is counterproductive to lash out or not see the other person's point of view. As a teacher, I worked with a number of staff, and we don't always get along harmoniously, but I've managed to get along with staff members even when there's a conflict, and I will go and try to clarify things or apologize if I need to.
Okay.
Another one, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
What skills do you think that you bring to the table to contribute to this as a body?
I think that I have a genuine care for other people, and then I'm good at connecting with them. So I have been a part of this community for most of my life. So friends that aren't part of this community are always shocked at how many people I know when we go around together. They're like, you know everyone. But I don't know everyone, but I would like to know more people, and I care about what they care about, and I would love to represent them. And I'm interested in the diversity of the third ward. There's a big socioeconomic span in the third ward, so just getting to know everyone who lives in the third ward. And also I'm interested in how community members can work together to really build good things and make our community better, make our community more healthy and whole. I find that in my classroom that sometimes a kid will be struggling with one thing, and there's another kid that can help them out, so having them work together. So I really want to bring unity. There's been a lot of division in our country lately, and you feel it here in this community too, and I would like for there to be unity in our community.
Some people think that city council meets twice a month and that's it. That's not true at all. There's a lot of reading that needs to be done. There's a lot of research, driving by particular sites before they're looked at, maybe for planning or whatever. So there's a lot to do. During budget season, we have a lot of meetings, right, Lisa? Sometimes we have Saturday meetings that go quite long. Are you going to be okay with all that, or?
I believe so.
Okay.
I've got a really supportive husband.
Okay.
Like I said, I like going out and exploring, and so I think that could be kind of a family affair. I mean, I think about it, I'm like, do I want to take time away from my kids? But I don't know that I always have to. Of course, they can't come to the meetings, but I mean, as we're exploring the bike path or the third ward or whatever it is, I think they can be part of that, and they can be part of the discussion. And I personally think that's setting a really good example for them.
Absolutely. Okay. Other questions? Tom, we'll let you ask one if you want. Let you like that.
No, I think you've covered the bases quite well. Just appreciate your interest in the community.
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
All righty, well, thank you very much. Okay. We'll let you go back over to the room.
Okay.
Sure.
Just so you know, that's a great question you asked.
Which
Well,
one?
just the form of government, you need to ask it every time.
Yeah.
That's your question.
Well, it popped up a lot of different times.
Right, so just,
In the
That's hers
answers.
too.
yeah, just make sure that we ask about the.
I like your question, Chris.
Of course you did.
What was your question?
that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just, not yes or no. Just what you think.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good. Thanks for being here this evening. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to tell us about yourself.
Okay. Let's see, you know my name. I'm a husband, a wife of 11 years, father of 3 great children. Currently as occupation, I'm a early childhood consultant with the National Center on Early Childhood Quality Assurance. It's a contract with the federal government. So I spend my days working from home, traveling occasionally, providing training and technical assistance to various Head Start kind of regions across the nation, as well as Office of Child Care states, mostly in Region 1, which is the New England states. A couple of things just about me as far as I'm also currently the Homeowners Association Board President for the Cheshire Crossing Subdivision, which is almost probably the southmost region of the city limits. So I enjoy, I've been doing that this is my 3rd year doing that. In my spare time, I just try to enjoy spending time with my children, go on vacations, and like to tinker in the garage, and currently building a gazebo for my backyard. So been spending some time doing that here recently.
Did you get a permit?
I did.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm used to that as the HOA person. You know, I actually saw somebody, we were on a walk in our neighborhood the other day, and I saw someone putting up something similar, and I said, "Hey, that." So ours are free, yours are not. But.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt. You're just
No.
spilled out. Sorry.
That's okay. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have just a couple of questions that we're asking everybody.
Okay.
Can you describe to me the 3rd ward boundaries?
I know I looked at the map. Again, I will say that it's like all the way into my neighborhood is the far south as I go. I want to say it comes up maybe right behind or just before you get to the Kroger. And then it's kind of I think of a skinny, it's not exact shape, but I think of that skinny rectangle. It kind of goes down from there. But as far as that's probably as much as I could give you. I did look at the map and have access to it, but
Okay.
can't describe any more than that.
Do you want to put that up there real quick? You'll be surprised how large it actually is and how far it actually goes.
Yeah.
Take a minute.
Okay. It'll take a whole minute. There it is, right there in the dark blue.
Yeah.
So it comes quite far up into the city also. I mean, we're all in the city, up into the downtown area there.
Yeah.
So just so you know.
Thank you.
So you would be responsible for all of those people. Okay. Are you planning on running in November if selected?
Yes.
And how will you campaign?
Probably I would spend a lot of time going door to door. I imagine that I would be able to have a committee of people that would be helping me. But I think that meeting people in person is important. That's the way I've done it in my neighborhood. I know that this is a bigger area. I have looked at things like a budget and considering, I think, sure, I would look at some signs and things like that, but I think the opportunity to meet people face to face and have conversations with them, hear their concerns, I think is probably most meaningful to the people that you meet.
Okay. Chris, you look like you're ready. You got one?
I get 2.
Okay, go ahead.
I get 2. Do you want me to just go through 2, or do you want to come back down the
You can do
line?
both. Go right ahead.
Hi, Tim. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Chris.
I have no interest in how you voted on the levy. It doesn't matter to me at all. I'm just curious. talking to neighbors, your friends, family, whatever it is, why do you think the levy failed?
That's a good question. So I can tell you that as the HOA president, Mr. Holman asked me to help organize a opportunity for our residents at that south end of the city to hear more about moving Delaware forward. There was a handful of people there. It wasn't that well attended. What I had heard for people mostly, I think, in my area, was a concern around the Olentangy School District, possible levies there, and just people looking at, how much taxes are we going to keep paying with that. I also think that it was kind of scary to people to think of something permanent. And so I think in my questions I addressed maybe something a little bit smaller, maybe more temporary, because it is a need. I can sit here and I don't know if it's wrong to tell you, I know you didn't ask, but I did vote for it. I think it's a huge need. It seems like, people are doing things everywhere right now in the spring and summer, but it was unfortunate to see that it didn't pass, but I think that hopefully this council will go back to the drawing board and look for some other ways to do what we need to do, because it's not going to go away.
Okay, thanks. Second question. In your answer to the questions, you made a comment about the parks that you'd like to see another large park located near the southern borders, and you'd like to see more care taken to maintain and improve our existing parks. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by more care, to maintain and improve the existing parks?
Well, a couple things. One is that I've had opportunities to meet and talk to Joe, and I know that was kind of near and dear to his heart. And in my neighborhood, I was able to kind of repair and expand our small pocket park that we have in our neighborhood. We are very close to the Cheshire Road Park. To me, it's, I know that they mow the grass and take care of it, but it just, I don't know if it's all parks. I can't say that for sure. I would just like to see a little, I don't know, just a little bit more of a way to either keep them nicer, possibly replenish the mulch a little bit more in places. Look for things like, this is where I think a city park tells you a lot about how a city thinks about its children. And when you see kind of rust on a city park in places, or things that don't look safe, or there's not enough mulch in places, I think that tells you a lot about your city as a public park, and that's for everyone to use. I know it takes a lot of care and maintenance and work, and maybe because I have that kind of background and experience, that's just one thing that I happen to notice that jumps out at me. And I think that there are ways that we could, I know that takes dollars and money, but I think there's some opportunities, even in our homeowners association rules. We found a way to work with the city to, there was a fountain there in that pond. And we worked with the city and we were willing to help spend money to make some improvements in that park, because a lot of our children play at that park. The city was able to come back and get found some money, I can't remember where, an aerator for that pond. And it's really cleaned up that area. And so I think that there's some creative ways that we need to think out of the box and see if some communities are willing to, maybe help in those parks, and in other places like the preservation parks and other places maybe where there's not an adjoining HOA, we can do other things.
Great, thanks.
Uh-huh.
That's it, Mayor.
Okay. Any questions, Kyle? Not now? Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, I have one. You mentioned as one of your top three concerns, growth and expansion. You talked a little bit about that. Can you share some of your thoughts on how we can do a better job, or what we can do to improve responsible development at the same time making sure that the city's concerns are met, how we find it balanced?
Yeah, I just, there seems to be a lot of talk, especially again, the golf course area, that butts up with the Dornock Estates. I just think that, it's one of those things where I don't have anything specific other than to just really be sure that the city council, and if I was part of that, I would be really listening to people to really make sure that I have my facts straight, to be open to change my mind on something once I learn maybe hear a different fact or something like that. You know, growth and expansion is definitely something that I think is important, and it's not going away right in this area, and there's lots of opportunities. So while I don't have any ideas at the present time, I just think that it's one of those top things that we need to be aware of, and I think that we really need to take some time to think about what may be allowed and what may not be allowed, and make sure that we stay open to that.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Lisa?
Describe to me what the first few months of your appointment would be like if you were chosen.
I imagine the first thing I would need to do and want to do is become a little bit familiar with the way that this council runs its procedures. I would probably dig a little bit deeper into the city charter. And then probably the biggest thing I would do is try to begin to build relationships and meet the people who run the city, get to know you folks as teammates on the council. I would also definitely drive around the city and get familiar with the boundaries of the Third Ward and try to meet people in the Third Ward.
George?
Coming back to the development ideas here, can you explain to me or describe how personal property rights and zoning ordinances impact development?
Well, I can give you some examples of you know, can you repeat the question, because I want to make sure I give you the right answer?
Yeah. Describe how personal property rights and zoning ordinances impact development.
I guess to me, I'm just trying to think of an example, but my examples aren't coming up against, I don't think would be a good impact of development. So I have to be, so one of my things as a council member is to admit and not be afraid to say I don't know something, and be willing to make mistakes. So I would safely say that I don't have a great answer for you. I am aware of some of the zoning, but I don't know if I could give you an answer without really trying to make something up that sounds good, which it's not me.
Okay. That's fair.
And how it would impact development. I can tell you that that I'm just not sure.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Perfect.
What, on that subject, what's the harshest criticism you've ever received, and more importantly, how did you deal with it?
I probably had the harshest criticism, of course, on Facebook all the time. On Neighborhood, I get all kinds of criticism, and I tell people all the time that I don't do that job because I'm looking for accolades, or I'm certainly not looking for criticism. So I always say that, just let it roll off my shoulders, because the reason I do that job is because I believe that there's a vision of making things better. But probably one of the harshest criticisms I guess I ever took was from a supervisor a while back that basically said something to the fact that they didn't believe in me. And I was relatively new on that job. And that kind of was like one of those gut punch moments, you know, but I decided at that time that there was probably little to no growth that was going to happen under that supervisor. I was confident in my abilities and my skills, but so I took it upon myself to see if I could get a transfer. So it's just one of those things, but that's what jumped to mind when you asked that question. So.
Any other questions? Under your answers, when the question was, what role does the city council play in the daily operations to the city? Part of your answer said the city council works with the city employees to provide long-range planning and adopt city budget. Delaware is a charter city, so the only ones that not that we can't talk to everybody, the only ones that we are in charge of is Tom Homan and Elaine, our clerk. That's it. So if we have concerns, I can't go to Dave and complain about something. I have to go through Tom, and then Tom will do it.
Okay.
So just, we don't, not that I'm picking on you, Dave. You just happen to be the only one in the room at the time. But so we don't really have a whole lot of interaction with their making their plans. We do hear them individuals, because if you're put on council, you're also asked to serve on other committees.
Right.
So at that time, you would be engaging in other staff, but that's the only ones we're in charge of. You get to fire or hire him and her, and that's it.
I guess when I was answering that, I was thinking more about the kind of the working planning meetings that I know that happens around budget time. But that's good to know. Thank you.
And also, when you're on city council, it's more than twice a month. It's quite a bit more. There's a lot of reading, a lot of driving around when they're talking about new developments or new things going up, driving around, talking to other neighbors around there. During budget time, there can be several meetings. We have a couple of Saturday meetings during the year. We have retreats. So there's a lot more than just 2 meetings a month.
Any really nice places for the retreats?
No, right here. Sometimes we go down the strip, right? Unfortunately, that's it. Yeah. Would you have a problem with any of that?
No, in fact, I've already mentioned to the board on the HOA that if I do get this position, that we might need to fill that seat, just so that I could make sure that I could meet the commitments that would be required of this.
Okay. Any other questions?
But just real quickly,
Yeah.
well, just real quickly, in terms of the southeast part of the city and the fact that it's in a different school district, the city discussed that at the time of those annexations and talking about how that would really establish, having 2 school districts doesn't set up 2 communities, but it does make it more challenging to integrate everybody as one community. How do you see, what efforts do you think the city could be doing to try to address that? The fact that you've got a large area that's growing, that's in a school district, but it's still part of the city.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the reasons I think that I'm running for city councils, because I think that it would be helpful to have a city council person from that end of the city be kind of more aware of the issues, be able to talk to the neighbors about things that, that I actually live in part of that, where it is Olentangy district versus Delaware. I'm not sure, I'm almost positive that's not happening now. So that's kind of one of the major reasons why I wanted to run, was to be not only informed myself, but to help to inform the people in that district on what's going on, and maybe start to hear more about, because Joe was very gracious in meeting with me and always took my calls, but I don't know how many other people really in the far south end of the city reached out to him that way. We invited him to our neighborhood block party and things like that. So, yeah, I hope that would, someone, having someone from that far down south would maybe help.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep. I do want to just make mention that one thing that I noticed, may I make additional statement?
Your time's up, so do it
Okay,
quickly.
it's really quickly. One thing that I noticed is that from some of the people that I'm competing against, it seems like they're on committees and things where I haven't done that as much, but I don't think that's a weakness. I think it actually might help bring a fresh set of eyes and perspectives to things. So I just wanted to share that. I'm willing to be on those committees. It's not that I haven't. It's just that I've spent a lot of time last 3 years in making improvements in the homeowners association that I'm running. So
Okay.
thank you for your
Thank you
time.
very much. Thank you for applying.
I'm going to get some cheese. I'm really hungry.
Madam Mayor, can I use the restroom?
Yes. We all want to go?
Now my cheese is ready.
Yeah.
Right inside
Oh, my goodness. So this John. Smarty. So this person. Why? Yeah.
That's
Oh, my goodness.
No, that's somebody on the.
Oh, he's
That's right. So if you want.
Look at me.
No, I don't think so.
Man.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Hey,
Dave.
Dave, can you take down that man?
Yeah.
It's like, can you describe, man, he was out here looking at a picture and you described it. What?
Hello, Mary. How are you?
Good, good. Kind of like a little subject. Do you know where I live? I live
In the fourth ward?
am I in the first?
You live on that section. Oh, no.
I'll send it to myself.
By library.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'd be
Fourth ward.
Yeah, I just picked the wrong one. I did that all.
Kyle.
Kyle.
381.
No,
Yeah.
Andy Brush was
yeah.
prior to.
After,
Sorry about
that
that.
was.
See, you usually started. I know.
George Spees.
I'm only drink half of the tea and so.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Hey, there's more than just cheese on that.
Can you take both breaks?
Yeah.
I brought some for you.
Oh,
Where's mine?
do you need to ask him a question? Do you have a question for him? Oh, you just wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Want some grapes?
The only way to grab it was to grab the whole thing.
Great. There he is, right there.
I like mine on
Do you know Mary is one of your constituents, Kyle?
It's easier to eat.
Hi.
She was just asking, you know, where she lives, what ward. I think it's yours.
Nice to meet you.
Are these? That's the sourest grape I've ever had.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we'll get started again.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thanks again, hi, Mary. Okay, George, we'll give you a couple minutes to tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. Mayor Riggle, Vice Mayor Schaefer, members of the council, my name is George McNabb. My wife and I recently moved here to Delaware in the fall of 2015. We searched Delaware for a community to live in. We settled here on the city of Delaware. Happy with our experience thus far. I thought it was very important that we look for a community that it'd be a good place to work, live, and raise a family. That's a little bit about why we're here today. Right now, in my current role, I work for the Ohio Department of Agriculture as the department's legislative liaison and lien liaison. Previously, I worked together with the state for about 10 years, 5 years in the legislature, 5 years with the Department of Agriculture and the senior leadership team. My time in the legislature, I started as a page, worked all the way up to legislative aid, various duties, engaged in the legislative process, worked with many senators, Senator Jim Hughes of Columbus, Jeff Jacobson down Delaware, or Dayton, excuse me, Bob Gibbs, who's now a congressman, and my current boss, Dave Daniels. I helped then candidate Senator he was state representative, he was running for the Senate. I moved down to Chillicothe for 5 months and helped get him elected. I worked my tail off, knocking on doors, greeting voters. It was a 10-county race, so there were many candidate nights. We had to be 2, 3, sometimes 4 places at once, so we divided and conquered, and I happily represented him. And we had a successful election, won 62% of the votes cast, and that's where I am today.
Okay, thank you. Can you describe to me the 3rd Ward boundaries?
It's the southern portion is where I live. First off, it's all precincts A through G, going down to 23. The ward I live in encompasses Bromiller Estates, Cheshire Crossing, near Bromiller and Cheshire Road. Going up 23, there's subdevelopments off of behind Kroger, heading all the way up into downtown. Actually, there's apartments behind the car dealership, and also going up to downtown and representing High Wesleyan. So I had the opportunity to drive it. It looks like a great place to live and very walkable. I plan on meeting the voters.
Okay. How do you do? Pretty close? Okay.
We're sitting in the 3rd Ward.
Just go. Okay, are you planning to run, if elected, are you selected now, are you planning to run in November?
Yes, absolutely.
And how will you campaign? You've already told us, but go ahead.
Yes, I think the job here today is just the tip of the iceberg. Getting out there, meeting the voters, going door to door, that is where a lot of the work gets done. I believe, I'm a firm believer, you get out and meet the constituents of the 3rd Ward, get to know their issues. I may not always have the best answer or get a good pulse on what's going on, but the voters do, and that's what I plan to bring that. I want to represent them and bring the issues here to the City Council.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Jones, you want to start again?
Yeah, I have 2 again, Mayor. Sorry. It's nice to meet you, George.
Nice to meet you.
I have no interest in knowing how you voted, don't care. As you know, we had the road levy that failed this last year, last November. As you talk to your family, friends, neighbors, do you have any feedback of why you think the levy failed?
Council members, I think that's a tough one. I think maybe it being a permanent tax increase may have something to do with it, but looking back at the City of Delaware in 2008, with the turn of the economy, they approved the YMCA Community Center. So I understand, and I probably would have went with you to make that good decision to go forward to voters. But being a permanent tax increase probably was a reason being, given the election. But I still think it's a very important issue, and you need to find a path forward. I know you had a very ambitious list of road projects that probably made a lot of people happy. Maybe had some people a little upset about their development was going to happen or not, but I think you need to prioritize that list and scale it down and start knocking them out and getting short-term wins.
Great, thank you. Second question, and part of your responses to the questions we'd sent you prior, you mentioned under the section of creating efficiencies to lower the cost of taxpayers, your comment is the city should look to eliminate waste that provides no value to its citizens. Do you have any thoughts in mind of what those wastes might be currently that should be eliminated if they have no value?
I don't know yet. I'd ask the process owners, the customers, the citizens. That's a Lean Six Sigma value. I'm one of maybe 50 to 75 highly trained experts in state government on Lean Six Sigma. One of the methodologies is to look for value in a process. What are your customers or voters, what do they want in that process? And you look for items that provide no value, and you try to eliminate that. So I'll give you an example. If you were turning your housing permit into the city council. And it had to jump through all these hoops and all these approvals. But if you looked at the data, and we had 7 layers of approvals, and almost 100% of them were approved every time. Well, you ask, why did you need 7 levels of approval? So you want to push the decision-making lowest level. So if it's good the first time, let's move forward. Because at the end of the day, your customer or your person who submitted the building permit, they don't care how it got approved, they just want it in a timely fashion.
Okay, thank you. That's it, ma'am.
Lisa?
A lot of times we deal with controversial issues, face criticisms from the public in different, various forms of media. How would you deal with reading things perhaps maybe that, oh, I didn't say that, or I didn't mean it that way? And just in general, how do you deal with situations like that and with frustrations, and how do you see yourself dealing with that as a council member?
Councilman Keller, thank you for your question. Members of the council, I work at the state legislature every day. I see controversials every day. A lot of things get tripped up, and I think it's important that you reach out to your stakeholders to find a path forward, work together. I think it's important that you include everyone in the process. I look back a couple weeks ago when you had the bike plan before the agenda, and I thought the council did a very tremendous job of working through the process, making sure all the individuals got heard. I've seen too many legislative proposals die because you did not include somebody, and I think I want to be, maybe I'm too optimistic with people, but I think people that are genuine and want to engage in the process, and they might not agree with you, but you can work with those people. The people that use disparaging comments probably don't have a process or place in the democratic process if they're going to be mean and bully people.
Okay. Kyle?
Do you have political aspirations beyond city council?
Right now, I plan on running for the city council, and I'd leave it just at that. I would like to focus on my family, being here in the community, and I really would like to do a good job here before I ever consider that.
George?
Got nothing.
Nothing.
Got nothing.
Ken's got a bunch of highlights.
Yeah, well, one of them you talked about, I was really interested in efficient and effective government because I spent 37 years in government myself, and that was always something that it's hard to push for because efficiencies and effectiveness aren't always important in the public sector like they are in the private sector. But I think you had a pretty good answer, and obviously you've got some background in that, some professional expertise. The other thing you mentioned was economic development. So I'd like to just get your thoughts on what we can do to do a better job of economic development and how we keep it balanced so we're dealing fairly with the developers and the business people, but we're also protecting the interests of the citizens. You know, those who'd like to see Delaware kind of stay the way it's always been. So how do you find that?
Thank you. Vice Mayor Schaefer, members of the council. The city or the county of Delaware is growing dramatically, and I think the city of Delaware is in a great position strategically and financially to expand and grow. But as you alluded to in your question, there is a balance. You have to balance the needs of future residents versus the ones of the existing residents. I think that's a fine line to act, but in my personal view, I think growing the city of Delaware only make it better. I think there's things you need to kind of like when you have personal values. What are the values of the city of Delaware? I believe probably the downtown historic core of it, keeping that intact while maybe expanding and growing on the outskirts of town. And just to add to maybe the efficiency part, it's not something you turn overnight. You have to build a consensus. You have to build the employees of the city employees of Delaware. You have to power them to make changes. So as a councilman, you could try to push change, but you may have or may not have success, but you have to build it from below and under and everybody in the organization.
The city of Delaware is a charter city.
Yes.
You know, they're not, which means the only, we have no control over what the employees do. The only two people we have any control over I like that word, control, is Tom Holman, our city manager, and Elaine Milkowski, our city clerk. Other than that, we can't go tell an employee what to do, what he needs to do. It all has to go through Tom. So we have no control over any of that other stuff. And also, running on council, if you're elected to council, it is more than 2 meetings a month. It is a lot of work. Carl's probably our newest, and he could probably tell you better than anybody. There's a lot of reading to do. Sometimes there's driving around to see what's going on in the city. There's, pardon?
Events and.
Yeah, there's a lot of events that you need to, you're the steward of that city. There's Saturday, pardon?
I said yes to all of it.
There's sometimes Saturday meetings, we have budget meetings, sometimes a lot more evening meetings during that retreat. So is your family going to be okay with all of that?
Yes. My first question when the vacancy was posted, I did run this by my wife, and she was enthusiastic, supportive, and she understands, because we've talked about it, it's what it would take. And I absolutely, I think it's maybe not in the job duty, but being a steward of the city, being on good behavior, promoting the city, I plan to do that. I'm active in social media. I want to show people, I'll be transparent on social media to promote the city. And I think that's a part of the job requirement as a councilman.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Tom, do you have a question? Good. How about Darren? You good this?
I can ask a question, but I didn't.
Sure.
You kind of touched on this already, but if you're in a conflict situation with your colleagues here, you feel passionately about something and they're not going with you or whatever, how do you deal with interpersonal conflict with, I guess you can give me an example of working with coworkers, but how would you deal with that interpersonal conflict with your fellow members on council?
Darren, thank you for the question. First off, I won't take it personally. This is a job, and everyone has their beliefs, and I respect that belief. So I'll try to understand where you're coming from. And if we are far apart, let's try to find a way to find a common path or reach consensus. I think that's the art of good governing. We might not all agree all the time, but in order to make good policy, I think whether it's Republican or Democrat or nonpartisan, you need to come together and have a good decision going forward. And it's important to work together, but if I were to disagree, I'd not make it personal. I'd tell them where the person I stand, and conversely, I hope they understand and articulate where I am, and we'll agree to disagree in a respectful manner. I intend to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
All right. If there's no further questions, I want to thank you again. And you can go, Elaine will take you back to the meeting room.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you what?
Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Make sure they weren't what?
Should make sure they weren't live streaming.
Oh.
No, I thought about that. I have a joke in there.
Yeah, it was a joke.
Okay. Hello, thank you for being here this evening.
Good afternoon. Yep.
I'll give you a couple minutes to tell us about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Ben Kelly. I've been a resident here in Delaware nearly 4 years. My wife and I built a house in Glen Ross. My wife is a teacher at Delaware City Schools, so we're pretty invested in the community. And I think that my situation kind of well represents what a lot of the people moving into the third ward, because of how rapidly it's growing. Most of them have not been lifelong Delaware residents. Kids go to Olentangy. They're, you know, a lot of what I heard when I was talking to people collecting my signatures was that many of them don't really feel like Delaware residents until April comes around and they have a tax bill. So I don't feel like that, just to clarify. But then I think a lot of it was just that they don't feel well represented, and they don't really feel like they're part of Delaware as much as a lot of the other neighborhoods that are closer to downtown and can come here. So I think I really like living in Delaware. We chose Delaware and Glen Ross specifically because of how nice the neighborhood was, because of the schools, because of the downtown, which we love and frequent as much as we can. And so I think I'm a good representative of their situation, and yet I think that I can kind of demonstrate why living in Delaware is actually pretty awesome, and they should feel lucky to be part of such a great neighborhood.
Very good. Can you describe to me the third ward boundaries?
Sure. So everything on the far southeast side along Cheshire, other than some houses right on Cheshire, which are not part of the city, the Wesleyan Woods and the Hawthorne area across from, across from Taco Bell, across from Bob Evans, and then kind of up along Sandusky Street all the way up to maybe just south of the university.
South of the university?
Up to south of the university, yeah.
So how far north does it come? Hit the map. You'll be surprised.
It may actually come all the way up to William Street. Is that a better?
May?
Better?
You have to turn that off every time. You can't just click it down. Pardon?
We just don't accidentally leave it up.
Oh, I see.
There's no black screen like the old light bulb.
Yeah. So all that in the blue, we're actually in the third ward right now.
I do think that I remember seeing that when I first.
Good.
That's not where the concentration of people are, so.
But
But it is where business is, and obviously very important.
Yes, okay, thank you. If selected tonight, are you planning to run again in November?
Absolutely. So my signatures have already been filed with the Board of Elections. I got word back that 30 of the 31 are to be recommended to the board, or whatever the right terminology is for that. So absolutely, that is definitely my intention.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Jones?
Come back to me.
No.
Can you believe that?
Okay, Kent?
Well, I'm going to kind of get into Chris's question. I noticed in your answers, you talked about the levy, and we'd like to get your thoughts on what you think went wrong, but you mentioned maybe a maintenance only levy, but then you go down and talk about the need for Glen Parkway. So how do you get this thing done? Because maintenance is an issue, but so is infrastructure. So what's your thoughts on why it failed and where we go from here?
To me and to some of the people that I talked to, it definitely seemed like what exactly was included or what exactly would be done with the money that was collected via the levy, I think was the issue. And then of course the word permanent, which everybody was definitely, makes everyone feel a little bit more uncomfortable that this is something that's not going to ever go away. And, talking with, I attended a town hall with Mr. Homan and I think Mr. DeGenova, and I think Mr. Hellinger might have been there as well. We kind of heard, what the plan was, but it felt very fluid. It felt very like, here's what we could do, or here's what we could do, or here's what we could do, and not really like, here's what we're planning to do. Here's exactly what's going to happen. And I think that was at least my major issue with it. And I think a lot of the people that I talked to. So, but then being, I'm currently on the Citizens Academy. So talking to the department manager and hearing kind of the side of, well, here's where we are. Our roads are okay right now, but without more money, like they're going to continue to deteriorate. Of course, once that happens, that will be what everyone is up in arms about, of just how terrible the roads are. And then, so that's kind of what I wondered is there a way to address the maintenance, which is the kind of the longer term ongoing problem that we're going to be faced with here pretty soon. And then if there is money collected, or if there's money, what exactly is going to be done with it? And I mentioned Glen Parkway in there, but I kind of, with the caveat that I certainly understand that without a development along there, the need for a really nice road that kind of connects two distant parts without anything in the middle is probably not real feasible, not real realistic. So if that were to be part of the third ward, which via the map, it certainly seems like it would be, that's something that I would absolutely want to take part in, is trying to recruit potential developers to what I think could be a really nice area and really connect kind of two of the more distant parts as far as driving goes of the city.
Harold, a question?
Talk about the southeastern residents not feeling part of the city. How do we make those folks feel more like they are part of the city?
So one of the things I mentioned in my questions, I think maybe a couple of times, was it's really hard to get from where we are to a lot of the interesting points of the city. For me to go to, say, the YMCA is lots of zigzagging back and forth to get across there. Even downtown, going through as many streetlights as we have along 23 to get to downtown, and then having to deal with parking, which I know is an ongoing issue. I wonder if more city events, or even council meetings or commission meetings or committee meetings, could be traveling from time to time to try and get more input, to try and get, if we go and would have a meeting at Source Point or something like that, would it be possible that we would attract some residents, because it's just down the street, that they might be involved or might visit, or some of the outdoor activities that happen in some of the parks within the park system? Could Glen Ross Park be a location for that event, to try and bring some of what's great about the city and, the main part of the city kind of towards those residents who don't make the trip into the city very often?
George?
Regarding development, can you tell me how personal property rights and zoning ordinances impact development?
So sure. So no development can happen without, proper zoning and proper consultation, or letting the residents know who are going to be directly impacted by that development, what's going to go on, what the plan is. I'm certainly not in favor of Delaware needs to do this, we're going to take these people's land and make that happen. There is something to be said for the overall betterment of the city if it's within a reasonable, and obviously with reasonable compensation. But Delaware's in a really nice situation right now as far as how constant and consistent and well developed a lot of the area within it is, and it would be a shame to turn away too much development because we don't want to lose that attractiveness that Delaware currently has for a lot of the businesses and a lot of the residential developments that are currently happening. But that being said, residents' property rights are absolutely something that needs to be taken into consideration, and only at last resort, or should those be up for discussion.
Lisa? You good? Chris, are you ready?
Yes, just a simple question. A lot of times we come up with, we have 4 members, we do the 4th member who represents a ward, and we have 3 who represent the whole city. But technically, everybody represents the whole city. So there'll be times when there's going to be a situation that the decision you're going to have to make is going to probably upset people of Glen Ross, but it's going to be best for the city of Delaware. How do you handle that?
So I would say, as the 3rd ward representative, that their concerns should definitely weigh pretty heavily, if not more heavily than, or at least they should be the ones that I'm listening to more. They're the ones that I should be getting feedback from. Like I kind of alluded to before, there are definitely some feelings within the third ward, especially the far southeast side, that I don't necessarily agree with, as far as not really feeling like part of Delaware, or, you know, why can't Delaware give 100% credit for city taxes, which is always the big concern in that area, since a lot of them work in Columbus and don't work here in Delaware, so they're paying more in taxes. So their thoughts certainly weigh really heavily, but it really is about the betterment of the city as a whole. So I would like to say that the third ward residents, they should weigh more heavily, but not so heavily that there's a negative impact to the city as a whole.
Thank you.
Okay. One of the questions, number 2, you made a comment that I would love to have the opportunity to give the residents a tax break because of the growth in the industrial park and the commercial centers along 23 and 36, 37 are providing a significant boost in revenue. What do you mean by that? Exactly.
So it was a little bit more of a hypothetical than this is currently actively ongoing. I certainly understand how the residents feel, and I feel myself that, you know, taxes are an issue, they're a burden, they're something that everybody kind of has to do. But should we get to the point where the commercial and industrial developments within the city are such that they're creating new revenue that was not necessarily planned upon, or that it'd be really nice if there was something that could be done so that it lessened the burden on the residents of the city. So a little bit more of a hypothetical, not as but if we could get to that point because of increased development and increased revenue because of said developments, I think that would be a really great thing to be able to offer the residents, and potentially bring in more residents who are turned away because you move a few miles south, you're in the township, you don't have to worry about some of those city taxes that we're currently dealing with here. So,
Okay. Delaware is a charter city. Do you know what that means? Is that form of government?
Sorry, repeat that.
Delaware is a charter city. That is our form of government. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, so the city of Delaware has a charter which is sort of akin to a constitution. It's kind of like a set of rules and guidelines in which the city operates by. I know that the citizens have some say in what that charter says. I can't quite remember what the intervals are in which it is reviewed and amendments to it are made, but that it's what council and the rest of the government kind of has to follow as a set of guidelines for how the city should operate.
Because we're a charter city, city council, we do the ordinances, the laws, the resolutions, all that stuff. The only one that can fire, hire, whatever, employees or make suggestions is through Tom Holman. Kind of like he's our CEO, so we're the board. So the only 2 people we can hire or fire would be Tom Holman and our clerk, Elaine. Other than that, we can't go to the citizen or the employees and tell them what to do. So that's how we differ. What's my question? Oh, the commitment. Even though city council is 2 meetings a month, there are several hours that go into planning for the meeting as well as being here for the meeting. During budget time, there's a lot more meetings. There's retreats that we kind of get together and have a game plan that we'll do on Saturdays. So there's a lot more than just show up for. And sometimes the meetings are an hour, but sometimes they're 4 hours. So it just depends on what's on the agenda. And also, if you're selected to be on council, you're also asked to serve on other committees. So do you have that kind of time commitment that you can give?
Yes, so I don't actually do a ton of traveling for my job. My job is a very 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job. And even though it is in Columbus, which at times can be a little painful to get back, especially for a 5:30 meeting, but we're here, we made it. I don't have a lot of external commitments other than my current job. And so I don't foresee evening meetings 2, 3, 4, 5 times a month being a problem. I don't foresee the occasional retreats. I don't foresee that being a problem. I don't have a lot of, I guess, extra commitments beyond my job, so.
Tom, would you like to ask a question?
No, I think they've been covered.
Okay.
Good job.
Darren, you good?
I'm good unless you have
Okay.
time you want me to. Yeah.
He's got 3 minutes if you want.
I can ask my
Yeah.
question. I've had one question and I've asked everybody, so I'll just be fair. A lot of times, council deals with highly charged issues and conflict can arise. So thinking about your own experience, how do you deal with conflict in your either work or interpersonal relationships? So if you're in that kind of conflict situation on council, how would you work with it there?
I'm definitely a laid back person as far as that goes. I can't actually recall a moment in which a conflict has caused me to lose my cool or to be a problem, especially in a public setting. It just doesn't really happen. So certainly with the residents, I mean, what I would see myself doing is allowing them to make their peace, allowing them to, tell me what their grievances are and what's going on, and simply take that under advisement for whatever that potentially charged, action is, or what the committees or what the council is considering. And then also amongst my peers and colleagues, that's just not something that, it's not something that I've had a problem with in the past, even in situations where others have potentially have gotten heated. I take things in stride and let people, talk it out and then get issues resolved via when cooler heads have prevailed. So.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much again for applying.
Thank you.
Elaine, I'll take a note. Okay, me too. Don't bring it back just yet.
Lisa needs more cheese.
Thanks. Swiss cheese is especially good. The crackers, very bland. Will you bring me back one of these?
Yeah. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah. That's all that was.
What the-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wanted to take a shower.
No. Absolutely.
Morning time.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, I'm the one where it's like, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't wonder nothing. No.
Time to get out?
Well, no. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Looking that way.
Georgia just saw.
Yeah.
So it's Chrissy down there.
Oh, it's in honey?
Oats and honey, honey?
I did see them where
What's that for?
You're looking at it, so.
she didn't want to be attacked.
No break.
Are you going back
Here,
there?
I don't eat this kind of cheese. What's this?
So do that.
Oh, I don't eat spicy. Give that to Lisa.
Oh, I don't know if I want spicy.
Here, that's spicy cheese? I just toasted it.
Thank you, Darren.
Yeah.
I've never looked out the retreat where I have my bag of chips right by the monkey.
Oh, did you?
I remember that.
My biggest work yours was here. Healing over 3 days.
That was a little ridiculous,
I
Darren.
couldn't get anything down.
It was like crinkle, crinkle. It was like this.
You getting this? Holy
Uh-huh. I'm about to turn.
Jesus, that high.
Hardly what you think Jesus is.
That's what I call pepper jack cheese. It's in the name.
It's pepper.
It's a pepper in the name, dude.
I deserve that.
We have somebody new snuck in.
Ready?
I guess. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much for applying. We'll give you a couple minutes to tell us about yourself.
I, excuse me, grew up Cleveland, Ohio, or a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, and then came to Ohio State. Actually lived in Connecticut for a few years as well. And then I came to Ohio State, and then Central Ohio ended up being home. And then, moved to Delaware about 12 years ago, and married, 2 kids. Try to get a little bit better incrementally each day. Try to, whether it's being a husband or a father or a community member, which leads me to here. So I like to have fun with what I do, and I try to do it well.
Thank you. Can you describe to me the boundaries of a third ward?
I've looked at the map, and north end is William Street, and then there is a sort of a central swath down Sandusky that borders each side of it, and then there's an offshoot to the southeast that I would go drive the boundaries and make sure I knew what it was. But looking at it, the attachment was, I couldn't really tell some of the subtle street names, some of the major streets I knew, but it's interesting.
Interesting, that's a good word for it.
It's like gerrymandering.
And if selected tonight, are you planning to run in November for
Yes.
council?
Yes.
What is your plan for campaigning?
Plan for campaign would be mostly door-to-door postcards. I think I'd probably try to attend some of the homeowners events in the area, and then some yard signs, but really try to get where those people congregate in that area to try to see them. So homeowners events are probably the best example of that.
Okay, very good. Mr. Jones?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Thanks, Jen, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
As you answered the questionnaire that went out, you made reference to the baby boomers getting older and requiring additional city services. Can you expand on that? What your thoughts are with that?
I think, and some of these are going to be, I'm not sure where the overlap with county and city is right now, but I think as people whether it's trash services and supplying smaller bins, or I know Upper Arlington does this door-to-door service, but those help elderly people be able to operate in their homes longer. And I think our services are going to have to increase to help those folks to be able to live in their homes and do what they want to do. I know federal fire and EMS struggle a lot with 911 calls, not just Delaware, but just generally speaking. And it's people that fall over and need help, or people that are lonely and want to talk to somebody. And that population is growing, and it's going to need help.
Thank you.
Ms. McKellar? In your write-up, you discussed taking the city to the people.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear just more of your ideas that you have regarding that and how you feel like that would benefit the citizens.
I think having, this kind of goes into the everyone's busy, and we almost need to make people responsible for being in the know. And so that's taking the city to the people, and that coffee with the cop, I think it's probably woefully unattended, but it's something that needs done and needs promoted so people know, hey, here's where I can go to talk to these people. George does at the library every so often, I see a Facebook post that you're there. And I think we really kind of need to hit people over the head with, hey, here's your opening, here's where you can ask for questions, and you need to do this because ultimately they're going to go, the city did this wrong to me. And you're like, no, you had these other opportunities and you knew about them. And so I think that, like I said, those big signs, just to, again, hit them over the head. Ultimately, does the city have a text alert system?
Through the county.
So, for instance, the schools, if it's a day off or something like that, snow day, I think the city ultimately needs something like that to say, folks, important issue, you can check this out. Go to our website and check it out. We notified you, you knew, you've been warned, or sorry, you're on notice. So whether it's a council person officially being at an event and you know publicly being, hey, I'm here for questions. Maybe it's the fire chief, but I think taking it to the folks so they can ask questions and don't have to show up at a meeting at 6 o'clock on a Monday. Not all people want to do that. They ought to, but does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Rohr?
You mentioned baby boomers getting older and not presenting new challenges. What do you mean by that? You talked, I think, about the trash issue, for example.
Yep. Trash, fire, EMS, those are really the biggies off the top of my head. But also, again, this probably links in with county, but the bus system, getting people to and from where they can't drive. And I'm not sure, some of that's going to fall on city, some's going to fall on county, and frankly, some we just don't know. But I think there's going to be different needs, and we're going to have to find a way to make those people be able to live here and do it comfortably.
George?
So quite often we'll do projects around the city that people that are directly impacted by that may have a negative attitude towards. So not in my backyard attitude. So how do you approach that? When your constituents are coming up to you and saying, hey, I know that we really need this nuclear reactor, but I don't want it anywhere in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that?
It's tough. I think most people are not good listeners, and I think I'm an excellent listener, and I try to really crawl inside their head and see what they're thinking, and to the point where you can make their own argument back to them. That's when you really, okay, now I get it. And I think an example I cited in my notes there was the development at Stratford the Connie Kleeman project. And it's, my wife doesn't like it. My neighbors don't like it. Not many people on Hawthorne Boulevard like that project. And my response was I attended, and she was great. She attended us early on and said, hey, I want to meet with you, make changes if I can. And she was tremendous. And you went, you know, I don't like the project, but you've done your homework. You've made changes. You've listened. I should have bought the property and done it, left it alone, and then there wouldn't be any conversation. So that's how I ended up talking to my neighbors and my wife, saying, look, she's done a good job, and it was going to be developed. Something was going to happen to it. We should have bought it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And in the roads levy, there was one group of people that truly were going to be impacted, and I felt bad. I said, look, I get it. I wouldn't want to be there either. But the bottom line is, half a dozen houses are going to be impacted, and the rest of the city is going to be better. In that situation, I lean towards the city. There's other situations I lean towards the individual, but thanks.
I've got two, Jim. One is, I noticed on your number 6 on the question, you said you think many city residents feel that government does what it wants and bulldozes people. So I'd like to get your perspective on why you think that's so and what we do about that.
I was at a baseball game last year for my son, and one of the other kids' parents, I think they live in the area of the new station up at 23 in Hillsmiller, and they were commenting on how they didn't feel council was listening or sympathetic or anything along those lines. And I didn't know the issues behind it, but I just said, look, I know the people you're talking to. I know a number of them, and they're thoughtful people. And sometimes you have to make decisions you don't like. But I think that's part of sort of getting the city to the people and presenting us as humans that listen and agree to disagree. And I think that's, once you take this down and you become Kent, that's like, oh, well, Kent and I can talk, and I don't like how we voted, but I get it. And at that point, they can move or complain or.
So my second question, I'd just like to get your thoughts on economic development and how we encourage it to be responsible at the same time.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Mr. Honest.
I follow a few things, but nothing, that's something I would really need to lean on staff for and learn about.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, more is better. That's,
More of the right growth is better.
yes.
Delaware is a charter city, which means, and I saw in one of your answers, you believe that council gives policymaking, is that where I wanted?
Or a policy overseer.
I lost page. Big picture. Anyways, we set policies, laws, ordinances.
Yeah.
Tom Holman runs the city.
Yeah.
So in one of your comments that you said that we would work with staff. We're not allowed to.
Gotcha. Okay.
It all goes through Tom. The only two people we're in charge of is Elaine and Tom. Other than that, it's all his responsibility.
Gotcha.
So if we have an issue, we go to Tom and then he talks to that person.
That sounds good.
City council is more than 2 meetings a month.
Yep.
It's a lot of research, a lot of reading, driving around, looking at the area before it comes to council,
Yeah.
and being aware of it. It's during budget season, it's a lot more meetings. There's Saturday meetings a couple times a year. Is any of this an issue with your family?
No. Actually, the Thursday before the original deadline, my wife and I talked, and I was 51% no, 49% yes, and she said to do it. And so we're on board.
Okay, all righty.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Tom, would you like to ask a question?
No, I think you've covered the bases, Jim, and I got to know you obviously through the levy campaign, and know you're interested in the community and really it's great that you want to be involved. It's good. It's great.
Thank you.
Darren?
Question,
Sure,
but
go
you've
for
done pretty, you kind of addressed this already, but I'll give you the same question I've given everyone else I've gotten asked. Can you give an example of a time when you've had to deal with interpersonal conflict, either in your social life or at work? The reason I ask is, and how you dealt with that, because you're up here, there's some issues people get passionate about, and you might not all agree all the time. So kind of give us an insight how you'll deal with that kind of issue with your new colleagues up here.
Conflict between council or with?
Well, give
public
me an
or-
example of how you have dealt with that in the past, and then kind of pivot that to how you would deal with it with these folks.
Okay. I'm a financial advisor, so when people lose money, there's usually a conflict. And that gets to be interesting. Typically, I always approach things as a prepare for the worst and hope for the best approach. And so in 18 years working with investments, I've had 3 formal complaints, and 2 of them I told the client about it and what they should do. So I kind of brought 2 complaints on myself. It was something the company hadn't handled and I didn't follow up. And so, and I think so from preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and truly selling a sort of a worst case scenario. I'm like, here's where it could be. Here's where I hope to be, and probably somewhere in between. And I think I approach that way with people, just explaining the parameters and hopefully setting those up well. And that's kind of, so I generally don't have a lot of real conflict. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks for having me. Have a nice evening. Hope to see you soon.
Okay.
Rubber bands around that. I do. Bring on chairs.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the? Yeah. I like the dirt on the bottom top. It is. I guess we budgeted to get new carpet here a couple years ago.
Getting the carpet. Carpet. Carpet.
Guys, it's chilly in here.
It's freezing.
It's in there. Good grief.
Well, good evening, and thank you for applying.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
I'm going to give you won't fall. You'll just rock a little. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to tell us about yourself.
Okay. My name is George Mansoris, and I've lived here in Delaware now going on 10 years. I live off of Cheshire Road, in where the old Kingman Drive-In Theater used to be. Actually, been coming here to Delaware for probably about 18, 19 years. My family, my sister and brother-in-law own Bun's Restaurant, and I'm up there helping out because very labor-intensive type business. So I've been in real estate since 2000, and in 2009 I applied for and got my brokerage license. So I'm now a broker, and have an office here downtown, right above Coffeeology on the corner of Sandusky and Winter Street. In February of 2014, I had applied for, interviewed, and been selected to join the Planning Commission. And that was because I had talked to several of you and asked, how can I get more involved in the city of Delaware? I've got time, and great things are happening, and I want to be able to be part of that. And I find myself here today. The circumstances with Mr. DeGenova's passing, that had living in the 3rd Ward, the opportunity to apply for and hopefully get selected to represent the Third Ward here in Delaware.
Okay, thank you. Can you describe for me the boundaries of the Third Ward?
Yeah, it's huge. Wow. So to the south, we're at Peach Blow, and heading east to the railroad tracks along Cheshire, and then to the west, we're at Liberty Road, and unbelievable, but there's even a swath of the city that downtown to William Street, and the south side of William Street is also part of the Third Ward. In the general election in 2016, there were 4,500 registered voters, and when you think about the population of Delaware, and we're at about 38,000, it's quite a, I thought the number would have been larger, actually. That would be, you know, because figure there's probably about 7,000 to 10,000 people living in that Third Ward, so.
Okay, very good. Chris, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I forgot one, didn't I? That's why you looked at me funny. If selected tonight, are you planning on running again in November?
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, I will be I've registered for a candidate workshop that will take place tomorrow at the Board of Elections. I have my petition and candidacy forms completed, and hopefully we'll be taking them with me tomorrow to make formal application.
Very good. All right, Chris, now you're up.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Two quick questions. On the questionnaire that went out to everybody, under item 2, it was asked issues facing the city of Delaware and suggestions to address them. Under C, your statement is the quality and strength of both fire safety and law enforcement must remain a top priority for the city and continue to be supported. Their continued dedication to the protection of the city and citizens must be recognized. Can you explain that whole paragraph to me? I'm not following anything you just said there. I apologize.
No, don't
me.
apologize. You know, when I got the 6 questions, it reminded me of sitting in school and being handed a blue book. And I was like, oh God, here we go. But no, it just that I think that the importance of fire and safety and law enforcement is paramount. And they're having gone through Citizens Academy, was made aware of some of the challenges that they have. And I think that it's most important for City Council and for the city to support them and make it a priority that they continue to do the great things that they're doing, protecting the citizens of Delaware.
Great. Second question, under your discussion of the opioid problem, you said I believe more education should be provided. Do you have any thoughts on how to do more education with that?
Well, what better place to begin than in schools? I mean, you have the largest audience of kids who are being affected by that, and so I think that would probably be the best place to begin.
Thanks. That's it, Mayor.
Okay. Lisa? Okay. Right.
You plan to run if you're not?
That's a great question. I will still attend the workshop, and I will give it serious consideration, yes. So I guess the short answer is don't have an answer for you at this time, but I will plan to move forward.
Political aspirations beyond.
Oh. You know, studied political science and history in college. Took a semester at American University and had the great opportunity and privilege to be a legislative assistant for Senator Arlen Specter. And at the time, he was on the Judiciary Committee, along with names like Ted Kennedy. And, you know, here's this 20, 21-year-old kid, and seeing these huge figures in, public office. And I was like, wow, hey, if I can make this far, you never know what can happen in the future. So I've always been interested and fascinated with serving, and like the unfortunate circumstances that opened this opportunity, I've chosen to pursue it. Yeah, so there's a possibility that there might be other opportunities. Who knows? But
George?
So as most government agencies, and cities being one of those, we're always faced with increasing needs and decreasing funds. So how do you prioritize? I mean, you already said, okay, you got fire and police. Aside from that, and what are those funding mechanisms, and what do you do, especially as you have within the city of Delaware, you have more of an aging population. We have a lot of senior, reasonably priced senior housing. And of course, once you're retired, you're not paying any income tax to the city. But if you were to ask our fire chief, he would say that our paramedicine requirements from EMS runs for senior citizens use up a considerable amount of our resources. So how do you balance all that? Where do we look at? Where do we get the funds? We had a road levy. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. What do we do? What do you suggest?
I think that the city of Delaware is no question on the right track with the developments that are occurring, and the balance between residential and commercial. The just recent development that's occurring off of Coughlin's Crossing on 23, you got a really strong mix of both residential and commercial, which should help with the revenues for the coffers for things like that. But at the same time, I've realized that both state and federal governments are cutting back. It just may mean that the leaders in this community have to, roll up their shirt sleeves and work a little bit harder and try to go after those funds that are available. Just means that, as you go forward, you got to work a little bit harder, and not to be afraid to work a little bit harder.
Okay.
Thanks. I got a couple. In one of your answers to the number 2, the top 3 issues, you said developers must understand that in order for them to succeed, they need to be more willing to work within the city's rules and regulations. Do you think there's times where developers have legitimate issues and concerns, or maybe good suggestions? Should we be open to that, or do we just say these are the rules?
Oh, no, yeah. No, I think that, again, you've got a variety of developers, and they're all coming with plans and their own ideas. So definitely always keep an open mind. You just never know. Their way of seeing something may open our eyes to a better solution to a problem. But what I meant by that is I just want developers to understand that, yeah, this community is growing and it's growing quickly, but don't expect things, on their side to just be, signed off and, taken care of. So they need to understand that there is a process, and it takes time for that process to occur. And if they do, then everybody should be happy.
Good luck with that. Huh?
Yeah, right.
So my second question has to do with our levy, which recently failed. So what's your thoughts on where we go from here, and also maybe on why you think it failed? I do believe why it failed was that I just didn't think it was big enough. 0.15, I just did not think was the kind of number that would bring attention, other than the kind of attention that people would be like, well, if they're asking for such a small number, then do they really need it? Could they not just pull from somewhere else to make up that difference? I think that that figure alone just, you don't often see 0.15. It's usually a quarter or, a third or something like that, something more robust, but I think that contributed, not it was the reason, but it contributed to it. And then there was a lot of
media attention, for numerous reasons that probably caused it to fail as well. And so again, going back to my belief in education and communication and just making people more aware and just being as transparent as possible. That's especially, obviously in the public life, you got to be as transparent as possible so that the people feel comfortable knowing, they may not like where you're coming from, but hey, that's as clear and as possible. So again, just communication.
If you're selected to city council, it's more than 2 meetings a month.
Mhm.
You already said on one, so you're asked to send to other committees as well as getting ready for the meeting. There's a lot of reading, driving around, looking at the areas that they're talking about, which there's budget meetings. Sometimes there's several of those. Sometimes we do it on Saturday. We do retreat on Saturday. Would you have any problem giving that kind of commitment?
I'm looking forward to it, to be honest. I'm the kind of person that just wants to be busy and just keep busy. And, some of the things that you mentioned already, I do with the Planning Commission. We get our packet ahead of time, gives me the opportunity to read through it, go visit the communities that are being, reviewed. And then obviously the time it takes to prepare for it. But again, so yeah, Planning Commission, on DPAC now as well. So, hey, bring it on.
And then Delaware is a charter city. Do you know what that means?
That's a great question.
It's okay, you can say no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't.
It's okay, it's our form of government where we as city council, the only ones that we are in charge of hiring or firing is Tom Holman, the city manager, and Elaine McCluskey. So we can't go to a staff member or director and tell them what to do, what we like or what we don't like. It all has to go through Tom.
Okay.
So it all starts and stops with him.
So was I on the right track when I used the corporate 500 scenario?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
So you just asked me in a different way then,
That's
right?
right.
Okay. You could have just asked me, hey, is it set up like a Fortune 500 company? Not that I'm so familiar with Fortune 500.
Any other questions? Oh, Tom, would you like to ask a question?
No, I think you've covered the bases well.
Darren?
Awesome. Same question.
Okay.
I've asked everybody. Can you describe how you deal with interpersonal conflict? Sometimes there's stressful situations or heated issues, and you've got 6 other colleagues that you may not agree with all the time. So how do you deal with that conflict where maybe they say something that upsets you, and if you want to bring in an example of how you've dealt with conflict in your work or home life and how you translate that kind of approach to city council, that would work.
Yeah, so, my principles are basically believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, okay? And then when things are gossiped about, got to measure the value, the goodness, how appropriate or inappropriate it is, okay? The only way you're going to discover the truth for yourself is you got to, discuss it directly with that individual. If someone has a problem with you, you discuss it directly with them. If there's an issue that is, conflict like what you talk about, you've just got to put aside, any egos and things like that, and realize that by talking directly with that individual or with those people, that you're looking after the common good, reaching a common consensus. So I've lived that way. I feel good about living that way, and I feel that talking directly and being upfront is much easier than trying to, skirt the issue or hide behind something and expect it to unravel and work itself out.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
We good?
So
7:30.
that's the last one, so we're not too bad. So,
Pardon?
So we're on schedule, yes.
Yeah, right on schedule.
only because of my last question. Members of council, Madam Mayor, I don't know how you want to proceed. Do you want to take a break? Do you want to have a little bit of discussion? Do you want to do an initial vote before we bring everybody in?
There is a break on the agenda, so I think we should probably take it.
Yes.
Number two.
Yeah, we're listed there.
Call this.
Okay.
Okay,
How long's the break?
15 minutes.
Oh,
One break.
nice.
And then when the break's over, do you have a sense as to whether you want to do anything, have them come in, do the first vote? Do you want to
Do
discuss?
anything now, we'll just all go home. All in there.
But I mean, do you want to do that first straw vote with the paper when we come back? I just want to make sure if we were going to drag them in, we do it instead of dragging them in and then having them go back out.
I'm seeing heads bob up and down here.
Okay, so at the end of the break, we'll bring them in and we'll do the first vote. So, okay.
Okay.
Sorry to delay things.
Kombucha.
Kombucha. I'll just try it.
There.
Kind of forget.
This is ginger.
Sort of.
There's
Ginger
better
beer.
flavors than this.
Well, then I don't want to try that. You talked me right out of that one.
You gotta.
What'd you say? It's not Japan. I don't have to try it.
Kombucha.
What is it?
Kombucha.
Poison.
It's a fermented beverage. It's very healthy.
It's not fermented in a good kind of way.
Like what?
In a nature-y kind of
It's
way.
very healthy.
Fish sauce?
Do you want to try some?
Nothing to do with fish.
Thank you. It looks
Kyle, say no. Just say no.
I've got this full of water.
So we're back.
We have 1 minute.
I'll drink this stuff.
You'll drink to that?
Delicious.
You don't like anything. I can't believe you like that.
It's really gross, actually. This is a rough one.
Wow, that's raw.
Yeah, ginger is.
Still 7:44. I'm watching the clock. It's not moving. Don't watch the clock.
You're right, I had 1 minute left.
Are you all freezing? Okay, 7:45. I'll call the meeting back to order. And Darren?
All right, so as we discussed when we first started, what we're going to do now is each of the council members has one of these little pieces of paper. They're going to write down their first choice. I'll collect them and tabulate them. Depending on what the results of that tally are, we'll figure out what to do next. It's hard to spin out every different scenario, but as we mentioned before, we need to get a candidate with 4 votes to have completion. So depending on what the numbers are, that'll probably make it a little bit more clear what our next step is. And I'll read the tallies out to everybody, so it's not secret.
So we'll just put them up here when we're done. You'll pick them up. Like our secret ballots.
It's like playing step poker.
I'm on.
I need more time.
I'm going to sit here and count them. I don't know if it's ready. Okay, Elaine, you want to watch me? You can just watch also.
So does anybody have a joke while they're tallying? No, just kidding. What'd you say? That's rough.
It's rough.
There's better flavors.
Yeah, anything that looks like
Don't
backup
say it.
is probably not.
All right.
Isn't that got probiotics in it?
You're spilling it everywhere. You can't shake it. So-
Now we definitely.
Okay, I have tallied the initial vote.
Okay.
I have 3 votes for Jim Browning, 2 votes for George Monsoros, and 1 vote for George McNabb. So that's, no one has reached the 4 threshold. My recommendation, do whatever you want, the council would be to take the top 2 and move them on to the second round, but you certainly can take the top 3 if you want, but that wouldn't necessarily move us towards a consensus pick. But there's definitely a top 2 vote getters.
Okay,
But you can discuss or talk about it or.
y'all look at me. Is everybody okay with the top 2? You vote again?
We have given you paper so you can, depending on if you want to write them down or if you want to do it by voice vote, totally up to you. One thing I would say is if we get 4 as a result of a paper ballot, just to have a clear record, would like to do a voice vote afterwards.
Yeah, let's do paper and then.
So who are the top 2?
Jim Browning and George Mansoros.
Right there.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
I think I still pronounce George's name wrong, or George Hellinger's name wrong every time.
Do you want more tissues?
No, just a.
Polyphenol.
Stick to the sparkling of the cool, not the. Shut it up, actually.
Good. Everything? While Clerk McCloskey is slowly walking to her station, I do have the total. I believe I have congratulations in order. My most recent tabulation has 4 votes for Jim Browning and 2 for George Mansoros. But just to make it 100% certainty that I haven't done anything with the numbers with that seemingly 4th vote in place, I would like to do a roll call vote just to make sure that and you can certainly change it, but if we can get 4 with a roll call vote, we'll have a record that we are done. Is that okay, Madam Mayor?
She just want the name.
Yeah, just the last name would be fine.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Browning.
Mrs. Keller. Manzaros. Mr. Rohr.
Browning.
Mr. Hellinger.
Browning.
Vice Mayor Schaefer.
Browning.
Mayor Riggle.
Manzaros.
So congratulations, we have a new city council member. Now, the anticlimactic part is we plan to do the swearing in our next council meeting, so you'll officially take office on Monday. Am I missing anything else that we need to tell him this evening?
You ready? Absolutely.
I have to say, I was really impressed that we had 6 candidates that I would have been happy to sit with any of you on council. So thank you very much. And obviously, you can't all be winners, but seriously, you're all very impressive. It's great to know that people like you are willing to get involved in the community. And again, I would have been happy to have any of you here. We just have to make the best guess we can who's going to be the best fit. So thank you all so much for not only your interest, but coming here tonight, taking time to answer the questions and everything that's involved in this. I appreciate it.
And I also want to thank all of you, and remember, November's around the corner. I'd encourage you all to run. Let the citizens decide this time.
One final plug for members who are potential members who are interested in serving in the city. We do have occasionally openings on boards and commissions, and that'd be another great opportunity to continue to be involved.
Thank you.
You to adjourn?
Yeah.
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Rohr.